And still, we have positive results. I want to remind our audience that according to the latest announced data, since the beginning of the counteroffensive, the defense forces of Ukraine have liberated about 250 square kilometers, and the enemy continues to focus its main efforts on the Kupiansk, Liman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka, and Marinka directions, where heavy battles continue. But Ukraine has no intentions to retreating. The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, said,
I wouldn't forget that we are advancing and fighting not against someone, but against the Russian Federation. Just a year ago, they wanted to completely capture and destroy us. It didn't work out, and now we have a counteroffensive. I know that everyone always wants it made faster, that airplanes can speed up this process very much, but now the Russian Federation is dominated in the sky.
So my question is, really, the opportunity to get very fast the all needed air defense for our soldiers on the battlefield will really radically change the situation on the battlefield and will bring closer to the end of the war? How do you think?
So you might be surprised to know that the United States has only 1 battalion of Patriot in all of Europe. So, I mean, that's gives you a sense of how the enormous requirement and that we don't have a lot of capacity here. So good air and missile defense requires several things. Number one, obviously, you want to be able to prevent, if you can ever prevent missiles and airplanes from taking off from the origin, you want to stop that. You have to have multiple layers. You need some weapons for drones, you need different weapons for aircraft, you need other weapons for missiles, and so on. And then you have to make the target areas as strong as they can be to minimize the damage to them and to disperse as much as possible so that you don't lose something significant just with one missile. This is why I think going after Crimea is so important. Make Crimea untenable so that the Russian Navy can't sit there and launch caliber missiles against Ukrainian civilian targets, or the Russian Air Force flying out of Saki. This is part of it, is eliminating this safe haven that the Russians have inside Ukrainian territory.
What about covering our army from the sky? I mean, they're providing so far F-16 and other military aircrafts in time. Because from what I've heard from your colleagues, they say that each operation of NATO will always be with the support from the sky. So what's the point to not providing it right now? I understand that it takes time to teach to operate these aircrafts. But as we saw during all this year, our soldiers are very fast learning.
No, they are. And again, this is what I've been saying. There's not enough air defense to cover everything. And so commanders have to make decisions about what is priority. And then you have to depend on other things to protect soldiers from air attack. So this is hard. I mean, this is combat. There is no country in the world that has enough to protect everything. So commanders do their best to protect the things that are most high priority for the mission, and then everyone else has to make sure that it's difficult to find them, to see them, and to be protected when they are attacked.
You are explaining very obvious things to the people who are here, who understand what's going on the battlefield. But as I mentioned before, Russian propaganda uses this information to show the weak sides maybe of our army and weak sides of allies. And therefore, Russian propagandists very often claim that provided equipment has already been resold from Ukraine. So my question, from all this propaganda trash that we see all the time in the media, in Russian media, is our allies really afraid of seizure of the military arsenal that are provided to our army? Is it possible physically?
I think that first of all, nothing is going to be seized. We recognize that Russia feeds a narrative that some people believe that there is corruption and that some of this equipment has been resold or stolen or lost. But I know that's not true. And the United States Embassy there, the officers at the embassy, they have the job to help make sure everything gets where it's supposed to go. So accountability, which is a responsibility that we always have, no matter what country it is, because this is about protecting what the taxpayer has provided. So I think this is normal process, and most people understand what's going on. I don't think anybody is seriously affected by this disinformation that somehow what's being provided is being sold. This is part of warfare. There's always an information space competition as well, and we just have to make sure that we're doing the right things and that we do a better job telling the story of what we are doing.
We just mentioned that it takes time to teach the pilots, to teach other soldiers to operate any system that is provided by our Western allies. So in this situation, we understand even if fantastic, illusionary Ukraine resell something to other countries, what they will do with all this equipment, first, because you can follow technically follow wherever this equipment is situated at this time. And the second one, you have to learn how to use and operate the system. So this is another disinformation that are used by Russian propagandists. Isn't kind of stupid?
Yeah, of course it is. I would not be distracted by that.
Okay, so I would like to add some more information about previous Ukrainian counteroffensive and ask more questions in this field. So on September the 6th, 2022, the Defense Forces launched a large-scale counteroffensive in the Kharkiv region. In 5 days, the Ukrainian army managed to break through the fronts, deoccupy almost the entire region. The cities of Balaklia, Izium, Vovchansk and Kupiansk were liberated. Ukrainian defenders destroyed 590 units of Russian equipment. Ukraine couldn't afford large losses, so much depended on a successful breakthrough on the first day. Many M777 howitzers and drones were used for this attack. The breakthrough came as a shock to Moscow. And in 2 weeks, Putin announced a partial mobilization and rushed plans for other areas. So my question is, how long can Russia mobilize people, and how long can they use trained soldiers from other Russian territories?
So I think that of course, Russia is a large country with a larger population than Ukraine, but they have hundreds of thousands of military-age males left the country to avoid being mobilized. So there is no excitement for anybody to join the army, to serve in the Russian army. The Russians are having to scrape the bottom of the barrel to find bodies, and then they push these bodies untrained into the fight, and they're suffering enormous casualties. Now, how long are Russian people willing to put up with that? I don't know, but I would imagine that Ukraine is using modern techniques to convey information to Russian people about what's happening there. And I think Ukrainians, they're fighting for their own country. That's different from what the Russians are doing. So I think the will of Ukraine is far superior to that of Russia.